Okay, another witness for the defense.
Call Todd Mullis.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go ahead and have a seat. State your name, please.
Todd Michael Mullis.
Go ahead, counsel.
Mr. Mullis, where is your home?
Kind of northwest of Earlville
Yep.
on a farm.
Do you know what the mail address is?
Yes, it's 1722 255th Avenue in Earlville.
How old are you?
I'm 43.
And what's the extent of your education?
I graduated high school,
Where did you attend high school?
Maquoketa Valley and Delhi.
Tell us a little bit about your family. Are your parents still alive?
Yes, my parents, Leroy and Elaine, are alive. They live just north of Earlville. And I got two brothers and two sisters.
What are your brothers' names?
Mike and Pat are my brothers, and
Sisters?
Lori and Lynn.
Do you have children?
Yes, I have 3 children.
Names?
Tristan, Taylor, and Wyatt.
And tell us a little bit about your occupation.
I farm crops. We got a hog operation, a custom feeding operation, where we raise out pigs for a company, JBS now. I sold chemicals, farm chemicals on the kind of on the side, I guess you'd say, as a substitute to earn more money. And then we always helped each other, so we were busy.
And your brother Mike just testified that you help you help his farming operation, and he in return helps you.
Yes, and we also farm with my other brother Pat and Dad. We farm each other's ground. We go wherever it's needed, I guess.
Okay. Let's go back in time a bit, Todd. How did you meet Amy?
I met Amy at the Delaware County Fair in Manchester. I think it was in 2003, and I just met her at the beer tent or something like that.
Okay. So it wasn't like it was a blind date or?
No, it was not.
How long did the two of you date before marrying?
It would have been, I'd say, it would have been about 14 months.
And where were you living when you met her?
I was living at the same farm in where I live now.
Where was she living?
She was, at the time, was living in Marion or Cedar Rapids. I don't remember which one it was.
Was she employed when you met her?
Yes.
What was she doing?
She was working as, I think it was a bookkeeper in St. Luke's. I can't remember. She was changing stuff at that time. It's hard to remember exactly what position she held.
So when you got married, she moved into the family farm?
Yes, she did.
Did you own that property when you got married?
Yes, I did.
And what did you know about Amy's background in terms of where did she grow up? Was she a farm girl or a city girl or what?
Yes, I knew, she told me right away she grew up in Eldora on a farm, that her dad lived there. She didn't spend a lot of time talking about other places she was, other than growing up in Eldora and then ending up in Cedar Rapids area.
Now, what year did you get married?
In '04.
So at that time, did you have these hog buildings on the farm?
Not at the time, no.
Were you strictly a row crop operation, or did you have cattle?
At the time, we had dairy cattle at what I would consider my brother Mike's farm, and I was sharing the labor load there, helping that, and we had hogs on a bunch of different farms, but it was in small buildings, and then row crops.
Did Amy seem to settle in all right to farm life?
She seemed almost ecstatic about it. I mean, she wanted to move in right away, I guess, is what you'd say.
Do you have interest in outside of farming? In other words, sports, music, hunting, fishing, that kind of stuff?
Yes, I love to hunt and fish. In general, be outdoors. I mean, if it's tubing in a creek somewhere, or canoeing, or just various four-wheeling, anything outside.
How about Amy? What were her interests?
She liked the same things. From what I always understood, she loved it. She loved being outdoors. She liked being outside.
Did the two of you ever hunt together?
Yes, a lot.
What kind of hunting?
We did a lot of deer hunting, squirrel hunting, turkey hunting, and all kinds of hunting, coyote hunting.
Was this all with a firearm, or was there bow and arrow also?
It was a bow and arrow, and shotgun.
Okay. At some point, did Amy seek and obtain employment off the farm?
Off the farm?
Right. Did she work somewhere in town?
Oh, yes. She was, well, she started off in St. Luke's, and then she worked there until, I can't remember exact year, but then she went to Manchester because it was closer, and we were having kids, and then she moved, or she switched to work up to there.
What was her, did she have a degree in something?
She started off, I think it was some type of a lower level nurse or a secretary, but then she got her LPN, and then she almost immediately went after her RN, and then she was a registered nurse after that.
Where did she get her RN training at?
At Kirkwood.
And that training occurred after your marriage?
I think she was actually pursuing that when we met.
Okay. Todd, I'd like to then move forward to approximately 4 to 5 years ago in time. And we've heard a lot of testimony about Amy having an affair. You recall that?
Yes.
And was she working at the Manchester Hospital when that happened?
Yes, she was.
And we heard Terry Steiner talk about her and Amy were good friends at that time.
Trying to think, what year was that now?
When this first affair occurred?
Yes.
Okay. And after you learned of that situation, what did you and Amy do about it?
Well, basically after we, I discovered it, we decided, immediately that she wanted to make it, quit her affair, go to counseling. She was sorry, and then wholeheartedly work it out.
Terry testified that she encouraged you to both get counseling. Was that true?
Terry encouraged, this was before I discovered it, she wanted Amy to go to counseling because she was sad or, depressed. This was before I knew about it. And then after I found out, Amy and I looked up a counselor out of the phone book, basically, but it was in Cedar Rapids. But Terry did encourage both of us to go.
Okay. Did the counseling that you obtained, did that seem to help?
Yes, we didn't go very long, but it really helped me to get a start,
Did Amy seem to be all in on correcting the situation and moving in the right direction?
Yes,
Were you satisfied that she wanted to stay married and would be faithful?
yes.
Was there any direction given to you by this counselor as to how to work on your marriage as you went forward?
Yes, there was several suggestions. She said Amy had to basically be accountable for what she was doing. She, if she was to go somewhere, it was just courtesy to let me know. To, be open, don't hold anything back. If she had a problem, talk about it. Just that in general, just to be open. And
Did the two of you try to practice that, to be open with each other?
yes, we did.
Did you talk about it?
Yes, we talked about everything. If it was anything on our mind, we talked about it.
Did she seem comfortable with that?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll let him talk about his observations. Go ahead.
Yes, it got a lot, every week that went by and every conversation went by, it was easier and it really helped. It really progressed well.
Okay. It's been talked about or mentioned by a couple witnesses that Amy complained to them that you were keeping too close of control or too close of contact with her when she was not with you. Did she ever complain to you about that?
No, she never complained to me about it. It was actually her idea almost all the time if she went to town, she would just say, hey, headed to town, got to stop at, this place, and this place. I don't, just depended on where she was going. And it was just real simple. Here's where I'm at. Shouldn't take long. I'll be home.
Was
Just
this
things like
mostly
that.
was this mostly being communicated back and forth by cell phones and text messages?
Yes, either a call or a text.
You spent a lot of time working, farming.
Yes.
What would be a normal day starting time-wise?
It depends a little on the time of year. On an average day, when I'm not doing field work, I'd say 7 o'clock usually, just depending on the time of year, 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then it was usually just go out, take care of the hog chores, then usually we went over to another site and did the hog chores there. Usually I was communicating with my brother or dad about if they had anything going on with their beef operation, and it was just kind of a communication thing day by day. And then we always stayed busy doing something.
Would you generally have a family meal in the evening?
Almost every night.
Okay. After this, I'll keep calling it the first affair, did your farming situation or your farming plan change?
Yes, Amy, it was after we went to counseling for a little bit, Amy came to me and said, I would really like to quit my job. I think by being home with the kids and you and not having to work weekends, we could spend more weekends together. She could be a stay-at-home mom, which she wanted to be, if there was any possibility to that. So at that time, I pursued building another hog barn to hopefully make a little bit of money, so to substitute her quitting her job. And we went forward with that plan.
Okay. When was the first hog barn built?
That was in 2012. Can I add something to that too? We also expanded on, I sold chemicals on the side, and when she moved back home, she took the books for it and got it on a computer system, and which helped expand that operation also.
Okay. In 2015, did you also acquire some ownership in some more land?
Yes. In 2016?
Yeah.
Or roughly, yes. It was, there was a farm up by Greeley that my brother and dad and Amy and I purchased a farm up there at an auction.
And was that all work ground, farm ground?
No, it was, actually there's a nice timber there on the one side of the road. There's some set-aside acres, I guess you'd call them, where it's grass, I guess, but there's recreational ground and work ground together.
Was there a house and buildings there?
No.
Okay. Was there any part of that farm that had a special interest for you and Amy?
Yes, on the timber side, there was we had a pond. There was an old pond there, and we redid it and made it a real nice big pond. And we planted a bunch of trees where we planned to build a log cabin.
And did you have a year in mind or a time in your family's life when you wanted to build that cabin?
Not at first, but every time we would go up there, it seemed to be brought up more and more and more. And I think she was getting the itch to do it.
Okay. I want to back up a little bit, perhaps. You talked about going from where you live in your ground to another site to do chores and stuff. Was there ever any ownership in that other site or partial ownership?
Yes, I had a partial ownership in that.
And is that with your dad, Mike?
Yes.
In February of 2018, was there some transfer of ownership or titling of property change that occurred?
Yes, where I currently live, there was a small parcel where the house and the machine shed and some grain bins were, that was in my parents' possession, and it got transferred to Amy and I.
Did you actually buy it from them, or they just transferred it?
It was a purchase.
Okay. And that property, my notes indicate that was in February of 2018.
Yes.
Okay. At some point in your marriage, was the home remodeled?
Yes, in the spring of 2013, I proceeded myself in kind of gutting the house, the kitchen, living room, and remodeling the whole inside.
Was that before or after Amy's affair?
It was actually before and during.
Okay. Did you force her to quit the hospital?
No, I did not.
She wanted to.
She requested it, yes.
After the counseling that you jointly sought, she was now an at-home mom. How would you describe her feeling about that? In other words, did she seem comfortable with that?
She seemed overwhelmingly happy. She loved it.
From the time of that first affair and the rather dramatic changes that you two made in your lives after that, up until the summer of 2018, did you have any concerns about you and Amy and your marriage?
No.
Did Amy participate in activities apart from you and the farm during those years?
Yes, she was. She liked to do the EMS voluntarily in Earlville. She liked to do that. She liked to go golfing with Terry. Pork producers, when she got into that, she'd always liked to do something with other people.
Did she, at some point, take a houseboat trip with some friends?
Yes, that was. I think she was still working when she took that trip,
Okay.
but she did take a trip.
I believe there was some mention in some of your documents of a trip to Alaska.
Yes, she went with Randy and Peggy and Tristan, and they went to Alaska for I think it was a Ducks Unlimited thing with Randy, and they went up there for several days.
Okay. A trip to Florida.
Yes, that was in June of 2018. She went to Florida for Taylor's Gymnastics
Now,
Nationals.
during these years, was Amy's mom always living in the Ankeny area?
Yes,
Did she have regular visits with her?
yes.
Did you always go with her?
No, I did not.
Would it be more often that you did not go than if you did?
Yes.
Would the children usually go with her if she was going to see her mom?
It usually depended on the situation, and over the years it's changed as far as who went with her.
Why did it change?
The kids got older. When they were younger, actually when the kids were younger though, she was still working and she didn't really get down there that much, but when she quit, then she quit working. Then if there was any kids go, it would usually be Taylor or Wyatt, or both.
Okay. Would some of those trips be associated later on, at least, with Taylor's tumbling?
Yes.
Okay. And were most of these things that you just described, golfing, lunches, trips, and so forth, those were being done without you being with her?
Yes.
And were you comfortable with that occurring?
Yeah, I actually encouraged it.
Now stepping ahead to July or summer of 2018. Mr. Frazier has indicated that you contacted him, and it had to do with him and Amy. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes,
And you're not denying you made such a call.
no, I'm not. I made the call.
What prompted you, or what brought that call about?
I had noticed that she was just acting a little different, and I had looked at a phone records, and I seen there was a large number of communications with him, and I just wanted to know what that was about. I was kind of curious. I wanted to know what was going on.
Was it true that Amy and Jerry had a legitimate basis to communicate about the hog operation?
Yes,
But this amount of communication seemed excessive to you?
it did to me, yes.
When you contacted Jerry, what did he say?
He just said, he goes, "Really? It's that many?" Oh, well, she's been texting me a lot, asking about show pigs, and I know she wants to get your kids involved in show pigs. And there's just a lot of communication that way. And then I think he said that Amy was asking him questions about gymnastics because Taylor was in gymnastics and his daughter was in gymnastics, and I think there was some talk about that too. Just general hog stuff or gymnastic stuff, kid stuff.
Okay. Did he assure you that there was nothing inappropriate going on?
Yeah, he said, "I guarantee you there's nothing going on."
Did you accept that?
Yes, I did, but I was just a tad bit unsure yet.
And what did that unsureness lead you to do?
I asked, I called Eileen. I think I had texted Terry about it too, and I said, "Hey, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not out of line, thinking that." And then Eileen said, "Well," I kind of asked her what she thought. She goes, "Well, I'd just call his wife and see what's going on." And I had also communicated with Randy too at that time what he thought. He just kind of said, "Well, I don't know."
So did you contact Jerry's wife?
Yes, I did.
And what was her reaction?
At first, she sounded curious, and then she goes, "I'll look into it." And then I go, "Well, I just wanted to see. I just want to put that to rest." And then that was about it.
Did you at some point contact both Jerry and his wife and apologize for possibly upsetting them?
Yes, I did. I after talking to them, I was like, you know what? They both were not, they sounded very convincing. And his wife said, "I don't see why there's anything would be going on." And after that, I just said, "I'm sorry that bugged you. I hope I didn't cause any troubles between you."
Did this exchange between you and Jerry and his wife interfere with your relationship with Jerry as the field manager for the hogs?
No.
Did he continue to come to your farm on a regular basis?
Yes, same as always.
And would you normally be the person that he would deal with?
Yes.
Was there ever any, did you ever get to a point with Jerry that you felt comfortable enough to talk about things other than business, like hunting, fishing, sports?
Yeah, we talked kind of about everything. He had he would say, I got a buddy that farms, and he would talk about that, or he would talk about his show pigs and how they were performing, or how good he wanted to do at the state fair, and just general
Okay.
other things.
Certainly a friendly relationship.
Yeah, we got along good.
Todd, from the witnesses and text messages and so forth that we have seen introduced here, it appears that around the end of August of 2018, Amy contacted you indicating that there may be rumors about her behavior again.
Yes.
And how did the two of you deal with that?
She approached me and asked and told me, she goes, told me about there might be some stuff going around. Terry let me know that there's some rumors flying around. You know how people are. She asked me who I had talked to. And I just told her, well, I only talked to Jerry and his wife and Eileen and Randy. And then she was concerned at how they could get started. So we talked about that, like, well, who could have started that? Kind of went back and forth like that for a little bit, and she said, well, I just wanted you to know, so if you hear something, you know, don't believe it, you know. And then I'm like, oh, for crying out loud, you know. And then I just kind of thought about it, I guess, for a day or two, and then let it go.
Everything seemed okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And this was around, I think we narrowed it down by phone calls and text messages. This would have been around the last day or two of August, 1st of September. Does that sound right?
It was right around that time, yes.
Amy's grandfather had died, or grandmother had died that summer,
Yes, Grandma Margaret died.
and where was she living or hospitalized or wherever her death occurred?
She was in she lived in Eldora and had fallen, broken her hip earlier. And then she went to the old age home, and then she got sick from there and died in Eldora.
Okay. Did you attend the funeral?
Yes. The wake and the funeral, yes.
Was that the occasion that you met Patricia?
Yes, I met her the day before the funeral at the wake.
Had Grandma's illness and the fall and injury, had that caused Amy to be away from the farm some?
Yeah, she went out when she broke her hip, and I can't remember the amount of days, but she was gone at that time. And then when she got sick again, then she went out again and stayed for several days. And then she was out there when she actually passed.
When she was doing that with her grandma, were the kids going with her?
No, the kids were with me.
Okay. Was there another health issue in Amy's family that followed?
Yes, it was her Uncle Jerry. We were actually at a football game, Amy and I, and she got a call from Randy about Jerry having a brain bleed on a golf course, and they had to haul him into the hospital, and just wanted to let her know that.
And did that result in a fairly significant hospital care and followed by rehabilitation?
Yes, it was quite lengthy. I mean, it was for a while there, they didn't know if he was going to make it, and they took part of his skull out and things like that, and it was long hospitalization and recovery.
Okay. Do you have an estimate of how many times Amy might have went down to, that was in Des Moines, right?
Yes,
How many times she might have visited down there or checking on him?
I think she was gone in close to 30 days out of a couple months.
So almost half the time she was there?
I'm estimating it, yes, but I think it was close to 30 days.
Okay. Was she taking the kids there?
No.
Was her absence from the farm and the kids somewhat of a concern on your part?
Not at first. I tried to just be understanding about it, but then it was it seemed to be dragging on a little bit. It's like, well, I mean, I was asking her, well, he's got kids too, maybe they could share the load a little bit and help us at home, because we had a lot going on. We had, 4 buildings of hogs going out, plus the harvest was gonna start, and I was kind of swamped. Getting the kids run around and to football practice and home and all that.
Okay. Did you discuss that with Amy, that it was starting to kind of wear on you?
Yeah, I kind of I mentioned it, but I didn't really press the issue.
There were some text messages that we saw that between you and Terry, I think it was Terry, where this topic was coming up about her being away and not helping around home when she was at home and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Were you concerned about anything else, though, other than the fact that she was gone a lot?
No. I was just, like I said, I was kind of swamped, and that's when I text her and I go, I was overloaded with work and I just wanted some help, so I wanted to know if she had any suggestions, but other than that, no.
Okay. Did you become aware that Amy had, I call it a kind of a run-in with your mother about this?
Yes.
What happened, as far as you know?
As far as I know, I had my son Wyatt at my mom's because we were harvesting, and I had my daughter Taylor with me, and Tristan was with Mike. And I was combining corn, and I got a call, and Amy told me she was kind of upset. She said, your mom blew up at me or something, to that effect. That she said I was a bad mom, and she didn't want me to take Wyatt, and she didn't want to stand for that, and I agreed with her.
Do you recall sending a text that you perhaps meant to send to Tristan, but it ended up going to Amy, that something to the effect that Amy was crazy?
No.
You don't remember that?
No, I did not. I was actually told Eileen that there must have been a fight, or I sent Eileen a text that there must have been a fight. Amy and Mom got in a fight, and Mom wanted her out of the house.
Okay. Did you ever have words with your mother about what she had said and done?
Yes, immediately.
Did you stick up for Amy?
Yes, I did. I told her that you can't talk to Amy that way. There's no reason for it. I know she's been gone a lot, but she's had a lot of trouble with her family, with health problems. You got to be understanding about that. And Mom agreed then.
Okay. From the time that you had these contacts with Jerry and his wife, just to clear the air, up until the time of Amy's death, did you have any suspicions at all that she was having an affair?
No.
Other than the illnesses in the family and her absences that you just described, you didn't sense that there was anything going on behind your back?
No, I did not, because she was so upset with her and being concerned for her mother Peggy, because she was stressed out from the loss of Margaret and now Jerry. it was her brother and her mother, that she was overwhelmed and she was just stressed out from that. So if there was any stress signs from Amy, I attributed it to being concerned for her family. And then that,
Is that stress that you were witnessing the reason you were texting with Terry about getting her to counseling?
yes, there was also, she was bleeding abnormally on her periods. She would bleed like that, and I'm going, there's just something going on with her. I can't, I would like to help her, but I don't know how to help her.
In one of those text messages, it looked like you had done some research about menopause.
Yes, I did. I was concerned because she would say, I'm just bleeding again. I don't know what the heck's going on with me. And then she would have mood swings. And I was like, well, I'm not a woman. So I looked it up, and there was symptoms on there that were consistent with what she was showing. So I showed it to Amy.
The state introduced Exhibit 105, which is a partial history of Google searches on your Google account, Todd Mullis 76 at gmail.com. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you had the iPad that your brother Mike spoke about this afternoon?
Yes, it was that. Yes.
Did you use that iPad a lot for research and accomplishing basic farm things, I guess I'll call them?
Yeah.
Did anyone else use that iPad?
Yes.
Who?
Amy used it a lot for downloading chemical bills. She kept track of the bills, so she would look on her email and get a bill. She would look on my email, get bills, and enter them into the computer in the shop. That way she didn't have to run back and forth. And she would research price quotes a lot. Mike used it. I think my nephew used it.
Was there a password to it?
Yes.
Did Amy have the password?
Yeah, she's the one who actually put it in for me.
Okay. And was it possible on that iPad to go from one Google account to another?
Yes.
Were you aware, or did you ever become aware, that Amy used that iPad to search for personal things like clothing or jewelry or that kind of thing?
I didn't watch her every time, but she could have, yes.
And you weren't, I assume you weren't contacting Google every month to get a printout of your activity?
No, I didn't track what she was looking up or using it for.
Okay. But you've looked through State's Exhibit 105, correct?
Yes.
And today we printed off a larger, more complete version of that Google printout. And you've looked at that?
Yes, I have.
You were present when Deputy Hemseth testified that about certain searches about cheating spouses or cheating wives, that kind of thing. Did you do those searches?
No, I did not.
Did you know it? Do you know who did?
I have no idea who looked that up.
Did you and Amy ever discuss topics like that between the two of you?
If there was a movie or something, we might have talked about a little bit of something like that, but Not extensively, no.
Did the two of you enjoy together history programs?
Yes, we watched History Channel a lot.
Did that ever lead to a follow-up search by either one of you?
Yes, quite often, actually.
Did you and Amy both enjoy history of Native American and other Indian populations?
Yes, we both would watch a show and look stuff up.
There were some searches, and I'll give you some examples. One, I think it was on January 15th of 2018, where I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but it was something to the effect of keeping your son from becoming a pussy. You remember that?
I remember seeing it, yes.
Did you do that search?
No, I did not.
Do you know was there an issue in the home about your son or sons having
Yes,
issues?
there was an issue there when Wyatt there was a kid taking money from him on the bus, or he would take a snack and he would take it from him. And we were discussing that because he'd always keep asking for money for breakfast. And we kind of questioned him about it, and then I think one of the other kids said, I think somebody's taking his money every day. And we both discussed, like, hey, we got to encourage him to stand up for himself.
So you and Amy both discussed it?
Yes.
Okay. There was mention that I believe that Tristan was made to quit the band because band people were pussies. Is that something you conveyed?
No, I did not.
Why did Tristan quit playing music? Or
Yes, he did. But it was he just said he wanted to quit, at his own, that's what he told me, or us, that he wanted to quit.
Did he participate in other extracurricular activities other than band?
Yes, he was in football.
Did he enjoy football?
He loved football, but he was starting to get more all the time.
A close exam, and I don't think it's been mentioned, but since it's part of the exhibits, there were searches for a site called Pornhub. Are you familiar with that site?
Yes.
And what's on Pornhub, or what can you see on Pornhub?
Adult videos.
Okay. Did you ever watch adult videos on your iPad?
Well, yeah, both Amy and I did.
Right. You did together?
Yeah, we did.
And how would that come about?
Well, I'm not 25 anymore, I guess, and if she wanted to go make an hour or two out of it, I guess we needed a little outside help, I guess you'd say.
Okay. Kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
There was a search that the deputy mentioned specifically. On November 6th, body organs, maps, and diagrams. Do you remember him talking about that?
Yes.
And that was the day of Amy's surgery, right?
Yes.
And do you recall, did you do that search?
Actually, it was my daughter Taylor and I were sitting on the couch, and she was asking about mom's surgery and all sorts of questions. And we looked it up because it was easier to just show her what was going on and where stuff was.
And there was an issue this morning that we brought up about the time of these things. Like that search on November 6, 2018, on this says 1:48 and 27 seconds UTC. Did you do that search at 1:48 in the morning?
No.
Do you remember about what time of the night you, or what time of the day or night you did it?
I know it was in the evening sometime.
Okay. And have you looked at this UTC thing to figure out what it is?
I just, from going by what you said before,
Okay.
it was an offset in time.
All right. And you looked at some of these other ones, and that offset would seem appropriate for other searches that were done?
Yeah, I would say, yes.
There was also some mention of searches about starving to death, drowning, floating, those kinds of things. Do you remember, did you do any of those searches?
The drowning ones were with the kids and swimming. We were swimming in the pond, and Tristan would say, I can float so much better than Wyatt, and then they looked it up when they got home.
And there was some other searches about chest wounds, gaping chest wounds, surviving in cold, start a fire, that kind of thing. What were those about?
That was actually, Taylor was going through a hunter education program, and it was an online thing, and she was studying for it, and they had these questions on the computer, and I think, it was Amy trying to help her out. It was all about a hunter education course.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Todd, I'm going to hand you a document which has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit NO. Would you take a look at that?
Okay.
And on the front page up at the upper left-hand corner on line 3, what does it say?
It says Google account toddmullis76@gmail.com.
And on line 7, what is the last entry date shown?
Say that again.
What, on line 7, what is the date?
11/16 of 2018.
Go to the last page, please. On line 2,945, what's the date there?
March 10th, 2017.
Okay. And you've had a chance to just at least skim through this or review this.
Yeah, I briefly looked it over.
Okay. I'd like to have you go back to the front, but page down using that number in the left-hand column and go to 347. Have you found it?
Yes,
And what's the date there?
it's July 22nd, 2018.
And what is the search for?
Wedding dresses.
Did you do a search for wedding dresses that day?
No, I did not.
Have you ever searched for wedding dresses?
I have never searched for wedding dresses.
Okay. If you go down to a few pages to 507 in the left-hand column.
Okay.
Found it. What's the date there?
July 3rd, 2018.
And what's the search for there?
Ohana tattoos?
Did you ever search for a Ohana tattoo?
No, I did not.
Have you heard that name before?
I hadn't until the other day.
Here in the courtroom?
Yes, in the courtroom with a text from PK, I believe, or between PK and Amy.
Who do you mean by PK?
Patricia Christopherson. I was always referring to her as PK. That's what Amy always called her.
Go to 517, please. A few lines down.
That's July 2nd, yes.
What's the search there?
Ohana tattoos?
And 518? Or excuse me. No, I was wrong there. I'm sorry. Did you ever do a Pinterest search?
No.
Do you know what Pinterest is?
I have no idea what Pinterest is.
Did you, go way down to 2,596.
Okay.
What's the date there?
January 21st, 2018.
And what's the search for there?
It says DNA testing, discreetly doing a DNA test without consent possible.
What's the next one down? What's the search there for?
It says how to do a DNA test without the father knowing.
Did you ever do any searches about DNA testing?
No, I did not.
Did Amy ever talk to you about her doing such searches?
No,
Did she ever discuss at all with you any concern about DNA or some project she might be working on, anything like that?
no.
And I'm going to make you travel back to 432, I believe. Yes, 432. What's the date there?
July 15th of 2018.
And what's the search for?
Zales.com.
Did you ever search for Zales?
No, I did not.
Going up to the top of that page, 417. What's that search for?
Kay's Jewelry.
Was that a search by you?
No, it was not.
And I think I asked the deputy this morning, there was searches for hotels in the Newton area during the summer of 2018. Did you do those?
No, I did not.
Have you ever searched, to your memory, for hotels on your iPad?
I've never searched for hotels.
So, based on this review of the Google summary, do you agree with the deputy that it was only you doing these searches?
I disagree with that.
All right, Mr. Mullis. I'm going to move ahead now specifically to November 10th, 2018. And unfortunately, that was the day of Amy's death, correct?
Yes.
we heard from Tristan, yes, 2 days ago, I believe. But I want to ask you, what do you recall from basically getting up in the morning? What were your steps starting out?
We got up. I think we kind of hung around the house just for 10 or 15 minutes. I was very tired yet from, the harvest and things like that. But we hung around the house. Tristan and I got dressed. We took the truck and went over to what we call the east site. And we did chores over there. We checked both barns, went through them. When we were done with that, I briefly stopped and talked to Mike about my nephew did some ripping the night before, chisel plowing. I asked him, hey, do you think it'll work today? And he said no. So I said, hey, well, I guess we got pigs coming next week, so we'll probably just go home and do that. And
So why was the ripping or chisel plowing not appropriate that day?
the ground was too froze. My nephew commented that when he got done the night before, he said, it's not going to work.
So you and Tristan went back to the home?
Yes, we went back home, and we went in the house and ate some breakfast, and we were just talking to, the kids, and Amy was sitting there doing a puzzle, and she asked what was up, and I said, well, we're going to go out and start getting the buildings ready.
Do you remember there being any discussion topic about holidays?
Oh, yes, she had mentioned that Rainey and Peggy, on her side of the family, was having Thanksgiving. I can't remember exactly what day that was, but she said it was coming up in the coming week or two, and wanted to know how that would work with us and the pigs and all that.
Did you as a family generally try to spend holidays with both sides of the family?
Yes, we tried, yes.
Okay. So well, let me ask you this. This plan to go out and work in the hog barn to get things ready, was that something you just announced, or did you discuss it with Amy and Tristan, or tell us how that came about?
Actually, we had just walked in, and I think Tristan, or Taylor, or Amy mentioned to Tristan, I got a little breakfast left over, and what are you guys up to? And then, I don't remember if it was me or Tristan, said, we're going to go out and work in hog barns, get them ready.
Because you and Tristan had already had that
Yes.
topic when you decided not to do the ripping.
Yes, we went over that at Mike's.
Okay. Was there any reaction from Amy when you announced that you were going to go out and start getting the barns ready?
Yeah, she basically I think she just asked, hey, you need some help? Mind if I come out?
Now, this was November 10th, and you mentioned that on November 6th, she had had a medical procedure completed.
Yes.
And you heard Terry describe that medical procedure. Was that pretty accurate as you understood it?
Yes, as to my knowledge, I didn't witness the surgery, but I would assume that was the procedure.
And did you take Amy to that surgery that day?
Yes, I did.
And it was an outpatient surgery, I assume?
I think that's what you call it, yeah. We went in, it was in the emergency room, but there was a surgery or room off to the side.
But she didn't stay overnight in a hospital?
No, she did not stay overnight.
From that day, from November 6th up to November 10th, was she as physically active as she normally would be?
No, she spent almost 24/7 in the house. She was just resting, and that's basically all she was. She was cooped up in the house.
So when she said, do you need some help, or can I help, what was your reaction?
I said, if you're okay with it, that's fine.
So did you all go together out to the hog barn?
No, Tristan and I went out first. We went out first, and then Amy came out. She wasn't dressed yet for chores. She was in her pajamas yet, and we were dressed already, so we went out first, and then she came out a little bit later.
Do you have an estimate as to what time you and Tristan would have went out to the hog barn?
I think it was it was after 9, by 9:30, sometime around there.
And Tristan described the various things that each of you were doing when he testified by video the other day. Was he accurate?
Yes, there was a few things we do in addition to what he was saying, but I was doing those jobs, so it makes sense.
He was getting those heaters and getting them to the pins.
Yes,
Amy was cleaning light globes. Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
yes.
And you were getting these nipple feeders down.
Yeah, I was getting the nipple bars down and zip tying them in place, but I was also hanging the brooder heaters at the same time.
Okay. At some point, did you notice anything about Amy that concerned you?
Yes.
What?
She got down a couple times and she would brace herself against the feeder. And she was kind of just like readjusting herself. And I think Tristan asked at first, she goes, "You okay, Mom?" Because he was closer to her. And she goes, I just feel dizzy. I'm lightheaded. And then we asked her if she was okay. And she goes, you ain't, is there something we should be concerned about, She goes, "No, I'm fine."
So all of you continued with your work?
Yes, we just kept doing the same thing.
Was there any further concern about how Amy was doing?
Yes, not every pen, but every so often she would get down and it would take her longer to readjust, and she said she was just dizzy. She kept getting dizzy. So we just kept asking her if she was okay. "You sure you want to go back in the house?" And she goes, "No, I'll just keep going. It ain't that bad."
That she indicated that she wanted to be helpful.
Yes, she didn't want to go back in. She didn't want to feel worthless, I guess.
And in good health, this would certainly be something that Amy would be engaged in fully.
Yes, she would. It would be no problem.
Okay. At some point, did she concede and agree to leave the hog barn?
Yes, after multiple times of asking her if she was okay, we were concerned about her. Both Tristan and I were concerned about her, and we kind of go, "Hey, I think you're going to get too hurt here. You're going to fall off. So why don't you just go in the house?"
And she agreed.
Yes, reluctantly, yes.
How did this thing with the pet carrier come about?
The pet carrier she didn't want to go at first. She kept saying, "I'm going to keep going. I'm all right." And then Tristan actually suggested, he goes, "Hey, Dad, we need to get that pet carrier out." And I go, "Yeah, Amy, why don't you go do that? Why don't you go get that pet carrier out of the shed, because we're going to get the skid loader and water towed out. We don't want to run over them cats."
The
That'd be
skid loader,
something good to help us out.
the skid loader and water tote was going to be used to water the chickens.
The
I
chickens
think.
across the road, yes.
And these kittens had been orphaned?
Yes, they were orphaned for a while.
And what was the pet carrier what was that going to be used to do to help with
Well,
the kittens?
Well, we're going to use the pet carrier to put the kittens in while we back machinery in and out. That way we knew where they were at, and we could back them in and out, and we wouldn't have to worry about running them over.
Okay. So Amy left the hog barn.
Yes.
Tristan mentioned something about wearing boots in the hog barns. Did you wear special boots in and out?
Yes.
And what was the reason for doing that?
We use that so we don't carry disease from one site to another. We would take our work boots off and then slip, like a slip-on boot on, just for them hog buildings.
Okay. So when Amy left the building, it was your understanding she was going to go to the shed, get the pet carrier, and do what with it?
She was gonna put it in front of the shop and then go in the house.
What did you and Tristan do after she left the hog barn?
We just continued working, doing our jobs, hanging nipple bars and brooders and washing lights.
At any point, did you become aware that Tristan had stepped out of the main part of the hog barn at any time?
Yeah, I think I seen him go down towards the end to get a drink, yeah. That's what he said he was gonna do. I'm gonna grab a drink quick, Dad.
Was he gone very long?
No.
Did he do that more than once?
As he stated he did it twice, I would guess that'd be accurate.
Do you have an estimate of how many minutes or seconds he would have been out of the main part of the barn getting the drink before he returned?
It's a matter of seconds.
Okay. While he was doing that, did you ever leave the barn?
No, I did not.
About how long did you and Tristan work there before you decided to do something different or something else developed?
We worked in there, I'd say a good hour, if not a little more. I mean, I didn't check the actual time, but I would estimate it was at least an hour or hour and 15 minutes or something. And then we were done with the barn. We had all the pens done.
What was your plan once that work was completed?
We were gonna go in and grab some lunch, and then after that, we're gonna go do the other barn.
So did you go straight to the house?
No,
Describe what happened next.
we went in to clean up, change our boots, and as we were doing that, me and Tristan were standing in front of the window at that time, and I go, well, that pet carrier over there, and he goes, yeah, I wonder what happened. That's what Tristan, and it was in a conversation. Well, what happened? We didn't know. Well, maybe she couldn't get it out of there. I don't remember which one of us said those words, but we were having a conversation of, why isn't it over there? And then Tristan said, you want me to go check it out? And I said, yeah, why don't you go over there and check it out? If she might not being able to get it out of there.
Okay. So he went on his own?
Yeah, and then he went over to see what happened.
Okay. Well, he went over there to see
See, whatever.
what went on with the pet carrier.
Yeah, if she couldn't get it out, he was gonna grab it.
What did you do after he left the building to go do that?
I was just finishing washing my hands up. I had to slip my boots off, slip onto my other boots, and then I proceeded to go outside.
What happened when you went outside?
I had just stepped out for a second, and Tristan yelled.
Did you go to him?
I looked over and I was kind of like, what, you know? And then he yelled really loud again, and then I ran over there.
Where was Tristan in relation to the shed? Was he inside, outside?
He was yelling out of the opening. He was just outside the opening yelling at me. And then as I was running over, he was just standing just inside the door.
And did he say anything to you about what was upsetting him?
I don't remember him saying anything. He was more or less, Mom. He was just kind of speechless.
What did you see when you stepped in through that door?
Well, when I stepped in, I initially looked at Tristan, and I looked over, and I seen Amy hunched up, face down, laying next to the door, leaning against the door.
Did she have this corn fork stuck in her?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I more or less just dove down by her. I put my head down. I was like, Amy, Amy. I was yelling at her, trying to get her attention. I didn't know what to think. I was just looking at her, and I picked her head up a little bit, and it was just nothing. It was no response.
So, what did you decide to do?
I just wanted to help her. I just wanted, let's go to the hospital. Is there something wrong? Right now, I just reacted.
Did you pick her up?
I started to pick her up. I went under her, like her armpits, and I was trying to lift her up, and that fork handle was jabbing in the toe out the caging. And then I realized, hey, this ain't gonna work. So I just set her down more or less a little bit in my arm. I just reached over, I pulled the fork out, I tossed it, and I got underneath of her, and I told Tristan, go get the truck, we gotta go.
And he did.
Yeah, he took off, and then I tried to get her up and get her out of the barn.
Did she ever become responsive at all?
No,
How did you get her placed in the truck then? How was she situated?
well, I got her out of the barn, and it was kind of hard. She was like a noodle, and I got underneath her, and I carried her like this, and Tristan was standing by the truck and get the door open, and he, I told her, get in there, and you gotta help me get her in, and he sat down in the seat, and I go, you gotta hold her, because I can't get her in there decent, you know. It was hard to get her in the door. And then I set her on Tristan, and he was holding her up in the seat, and it was hard to get her legs in, and then I closed the door, and I ran around the truck and took off.
At any point, did you think about just letting her there and calling 911?
I did not. I didn't. I'm a doer, I guess. I wanted to help. Let's go.
Did you call 911?
Yeah, as soon as I got in the truck, out of the driveway, I called 911.
And that's the call that we listened to.
Yeah.
Did the deputies that described what they saw when they arrived, did they accurately describe what was happening there?
Yeah. Yeah. My memories is such a hyped up moment. I would agree with that.
I believe one of the witnesses described you as being excited.
Yeah, I was very excited. I think I had adrenaline pouring out my ears. I was in reaction mode. I wanted to get her to the hospital. Let's go.
Michael Krogman testified this afternoon that he kind of took over with Tristan at your request.
Yeah, Michael and Tom showed up, and everybody showed up, and it was just kind of everybody showed up at once. And I think it was Michael and a couple of the EMTs. They said, you better turn him away, you know, he better not look at this. So Michael grabbed him and took him over there, and then one of the EMTs says, why don't you go over and comfort your son? So I went over by Michael and Tristan, and at that time, I remember telling Michael, hey, he's got blood on his coat, maybe put your coat over him, and Michael took his coat off and put his coat on him so he wouldn't see that. And then I thought of my other kids, and I was thinking of, oh my God, they're home alone. And I wanted to call Mom and go over and make sure, watch the other two kids. And then it was just back and forth. I didn't really know what to do.
And then you followed in another Krogman's pickup, followed the ambulance into the hospital.
Yeah, Tom was there, and he said, "Why don't you hop in with me and let's go?"
When you got to the hospital, were you allowed to be in and around Amy, or were they working on her?
No, not at first. They were working on her. I just remember being it was a waiting room there, and some friends were there with me, and I think it was Tom and Carol were in there with me, and we just waited.
At some point, I assume medical people informed you that she had passed.
Yeah, I don't know how long later. I think it was Gerst came in and told me that, and it was a priest, and they were all there. And
By that time, had your family arrived?
yeah, I can't remember honestly. I think Mike was there maybe. I just can't remember exactly who was all showing up at that time. I remember there was a bunch of people coming in.
Out at the location where you met the deputies in the ambulance, do you remember expressing to them what you thought had happened? To Amy, speaking.
I remember when I was on the 911, it was like the 911 call said, she must have fell in a corn fork. And then when I got over there, at Brian's, I think somebody asked me again, like, I really don't know what happened. I thought she fell on it. I don't know.
And you spoke with Deputy Thompson at the hospital briefly?
Yes, I think he spoke to me at least 2 times, yes.
And a similar conversation or an explanation of what you thought might have happened?
I don't know if I explained what I thought happened. I just explained what we were doing that day. He had asked what we were doing that day, and then I just said that I found her there, and I don't know if he specifically asked what I thought happened.
So you gave him an idea of what you just told the jury?
Yes, I didn't say I knew what happened. I just said, this is what my perspective was. This is what I witnessed.
At some point, while you were still at the hospital, were you requested to go to the sheriff's office and have a conversation there?
Yes, Luke Thompson came up to me and he said, "Hey, is it okay if we just take you downtown and explain it one more time?" The best of my memory, that's what he said.
And you cooperated with that?
And I said, "Well, if you need me to, that's fine, let's go."
After you left there, where did you go?
I went back up to the hospital. He took me back up to the hospital. I wanted to be there for Randy and Peggy when they got there. So I waited there till they got there, and then after that, I went home.
Yeah. Were the kids at home when you got home?
Yes, they were home at that time.
Your mom and dad there?
Yes, all my family was there at that time.
Okay. When would have been the next time you had any contact with law enforcement about this?
Yeah, it was a few days later. 3 days later, 4 days later, Sheriff Leclerc called me and said they're wanting to wrap this up. Want to wrap up this investigation. Could you come down and talk about it? He asked how the kids were, things like that. And then I said, well, if you need me to come down, I'll get cleaned up and come down.
What had you been doing day to day in between Amy's death and that phone call?
Making some plans, looking up some songs and things like that for her wake or funeral, and getting the kids ready to go. I put the kids in school right away to keep a routine going, and just making plans.
When you got to the sheriff's office, did you participate in the interview that we saw parts of today?
Yes, I did.
Had you had much sleep in that span of time?
No, I didn't. No.
Had you heard any rumors around town?
Yes, they said the rumors were going crazy.
Rumors that you might be in trouble?
Judge, I'm going to object to any rumors. That is clearly hearsay, and there's no foundation to the context.
It would be hearsay.
I'll change the question. Thank you, Honor. When you started into that interview, were you expecting to be accused of your wife's murder?
No, not at all.
Were you still apprehensive about being interviewed by the agent?
Not at first, but then I was after a little bit. I mean, the length of time, I was like, what is going on?
Okay. Do you believe, well, let me, the agent, this DCI agent this morning said that, in his opinion, you never denied killing Amy. Do you think you did?
Yes, I did.
And you did so how?
I stated that you want me to confess to something I did not do. And in my mind, that's saying I did not do that.
Was he giving you much of a chance to explain things?
Not at all. I tried several times and he wouldn't give me a chance to say 2 words.
Just a few more questions, Todd. Deputy Hemseth said this morning that he went and checked the security cameras that were on your hog barn. You heard that?
Yes, I did.
Did you know that they were not operating?
No, I did not know.
You heard your brother Mike's testimony about what would disrupt those cameras.
Yes, I did.
Do you believe that that's, in your experience, did that type of thing happen? The cats knock the antennas down?
Yes, because the colder it gets, cats go to heat. And there's a heater right below the window. Sun comes up in the morning. They sit in the window.
Now, he said, and I don't have my notes in front of me right now, but that the one, well, maybe I do. That the one camera had no activity on it from September 11th to October 29th. Had you checked it to see if that's true?
I had never rewound it. I had not checked.
And one of the cameras had nothing at all on it. You didn't check that?
No.
Right. Now, he did say that on November 11th, there was some activity on one of the cameras.
Yes,
Can you explain that?
it was the day after I think after talking to family members and stuff, they go, hey, maybe, did you have anything on the camera? Maybe they're, figure something out if she, whatever, if she's falling over, whatever, in the yard, we didn't know. So I went out the next day, I seen everything was knocked off, hanging down by the floor. I picked it all back up, and I got the signal, and I said, well, there ain't no use trying to look into that because obviously it was all knocked over. I did not know how long it had been off or whatever.
Did you activate it though somehow that day?
Yeah, when I picked the antennas up off the ground and put them back so they receive reception, yes.
Okay. But you didn't expect to see anything on there because they weren't?
Well, everything was on the ground.
Okay. Just a couple more. A couple more questions. At the end of that short conversation that Deputy Thompson had with you at the hospital, I believe he asked you at the end if he could talk to Tristan. You remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
And I think that you made a comment, something to let me talk to him, something like that?
Yeah, I believe I did.
Did you go talk to Tristan before he talked to him?
I never got a chance to. I went out and I was gonna say, is it okay? But there was a whole bunch of people outside the waiting room and I started talking to them. I never did talk to Tristan, and then Luke came over and he said, is Tristan in there? And I go, I think so. And then he went and grabbed him.
So you weren't present when Thompson talked to Tristan?
No, I was not.
Okay. Todd, did you ambush your wife Amy in that shed that day and brutally beat her and chop her up with that corn fork?
No, I did not.
Do you know who did?
I have no idea.
Your Honor, I would offer that Exhibit NO at this time.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit NO is admitted.
No other questions?
Okay. I think we'll quit there for the night, folks, and come back with cross-examination in the morning. I am going to talk with the attorneys very briefly about how we're doing on time and witnesses. So I'm going to have you go to the jury room, and I'll let the court attendant know what time we need you in the morning. Remember the admonition, keep an open mind about everything, and you will report to the jury room as always.